Hi everyone, this is Joanne from Latter Rain Ministry. I have something on my heart that I just wanted to share because I find a lot of people in regards to relationships don't know what boundaries are, and a lot of people struggle because they don't. They don't know, in everyday life we encounter boundaries. A parking space is a boundary, an appointment is a boundary. A boundary is where something starts and where something ends. So it could be the ocean and the shore. Day and night are a boundary. Your yard, your desk at work, those things are boundaries. So, those are things that we encounter every day. On a daily basis, but I think where people get into trouble, I'm going to adjust this camera a little bit. It looks like I'm looking, there we go, that's better. I think where people get into trouble is we don't know where boundaries are in regard to our relationships. So, we run into problems with our relationships as a result. We aren't taught or brought up taught boundaries, so we don't know when we've been trespassed against. And the Bible says if anybody trespasses against you or crosses a boundary or a line, we are to rebuke them. So if you don't know where the boundary is, how do you know if you've been trespassed? So the Lord establishes boundaries. He respects our boundaries. He has boundaries. So boundaries are good. They keep what's bad out and what's good in. Your skin is a boundary. It keeps your organs in, your blood in, and all those kinds of things. So boundaries are good. And when we don't have boundaries in our relationships, we feel violated. We feel disrespected because somebody is not letting us be. They're controlling us. They're not letting us be who we are as a person. They're trying to dictate what you should think, what you should feel, what you should do, and things like that. So if you think of a boundary as a personal space, or say your house and your yard has a fence around it. So anything within your fence is yours. It's within your boundary, and no one has a right to comment or give advice on anything within your boundary. What kind of car to drive, what kind of career to have, what kind of pets, how many pets, what color to paint your house, what hobbies to take up, and all those things. So those are within your fence and your boundary, and anybody outside of that boundary has no right to comment on, give advice on, or dictate what you should do with yours. And your feelings are also your boundaries, your color preferences, all those things. They're yours. They make up who you are, your wants, your needs, your feelings. So if anybody talks you out of your feelings, your wants, your needs, they're crossing the line. And you'll find that in narcissistic relationships, they want to tell you what to think, what to feel, who to be. So when you have done the hard work of healing from narcissistic abuse, when you get into relationships, whether they be work relationships, friends, relationships with friends, you'll find that people who disrespect your boundaries, you notice them, and you notice that you feel disrespected, and it will bother you. Now that you're healthy, you're aware of that. So you know who is disrespecting you. You know who is toxic, and you have a choice. You can either, not be in a relationship with them and distance yourself, or you can try and teach them about boundaries. And if they care about you, they're going to do the work of learning and not doing what you don't like, that makes you feel disrespected. So just as an example, I have a friend who is codependent. And people who are codependent, they like to help fix, give advice, smother people. I call it smothering too. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, my friend decided that I was going to be her project, because codependent people find other people to help. They want to help, they want to fix, they need a project in order to feel good about themselves. They want to feel like they're doing something worthwhile or worthy. And the problem is, not everybody wants to be a project. Not everybody wants to be fixed, helped, or anything else. And that's me. I don't want to be fixed. I don't want to be, smothered. I don't want to be. I don't need somebody checking up on me, and those kinds of things. And this friend was becoming so intrusive in my life that I just found I needed my weekends and my space away from her, just because she was so toxic to me, and it was very frustrating to me. And for my own sanity, I need that break. I need to get away from that. But in the same way, I'm trying on a daily basis, when I do have contact with her, I'm trying to teach her about boundaries and respect, and trying to let her know that these things are toxic. They cause problems in relationships, and people don't like it. A couple, for instances, I heard her tell her granddaughter she shouldn't have any more children, and my first thought was, who are you to tell somebody how many children that they can have? Just because you're the grandmother, that's not yours to dictate. That's not yours to comment on. That's their family. That's within their fence. And that's not something that's yours to comment on. I know, she would say things to me, you're too thin, because I have lost weight. You're too thin. And she's making comments like that, and she likes to cook and things like that. And I've tried to have a healthy lifestyle. I've cut out sugars and things like that, and she would always be bringing in food. I'd come into work and here's chocolate croissants, or she'd stop and get a breakfast sandwich. I don't eat fast food, not anywhere ever. And that kind of stuff would be on my desk, and I'd have to tell her, I will not eat that. I'm not going to eat that. And sugar is cancer's favorite food, so I definitely cut out the sugars. And she would always, when I had a doctor's appointment, because I was doing quarterly blood work, which my blood work's awesome. I don't have cancer anymore, and it's awesome, but every time I have a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment, she'll ask me, would you like me to go? I don't need her going to the doctor with me, and she'll try and worm her way in to sit there with the doctor in the room with me. And she'll say, well, if they're trying to explain things to you, you might not hear everything. Well, and to me, that's very invasive. That is not where I want her. So as a result of her not knowing where the line is, and me having to always let her know, I don't like that. Please don't do that. Don't ask me again about going to the doctor with me. I don't like that. I have to keep enforcing that boundary, and it has become a problem and an issue. It used to be, I have to detox from her on weekends, and she used to call me on Sunday. Well, I didn't hear from you. You haven't checked in. And she treats me like a child, and she'll say, you didn't check in, and I was worried. And I'll tell her, I'm not a child. I do not have to check in with you. So, being her project that she has to oversee, she didn't like that. And there was this constant conflict with her. And I would have to tell her that you're treating me like a child. I don't like that. So then she would say, well, that's how you take it. I understand that's how you take it. That is another, when somebody says that is another form of gaslighting. That is the same thing as saying, well, it wasn't my intent. So if somebody says, it wasn't my intent, or that's how you took it, the unspoken message that they are giving you is, what you think about me is more important to me than how I just made you feel. So they are putting themselves above you. That's the unspoken message that they are giving you. What you think about me, because it wasn't my intent, I'm letting you know that I have no ill intentions. You took it that way. It wasn't my intent. It's more important to me what you think about me than how my words affected you. So these are things that I have had to teach this friend in this relationship. If I care about her, I'll try and do that. Because those are things that bother me after being in a relationship with a covert narcissistic abuser. It was always, it wasn't my intent. Therefore, the unspoken message is, so you have no reason to feel the way you do. It's a way of negating your feelings. And if somebody is always negating your feelings, they're crossing the line, they're crossing the boundary, they're telling you what to think, what to feel, what to want, and what to do. They're dismissing you as a person. And if you constantly do that to somebody else, that is the worst form of abuse. If you're constantly doing that to somebody, you are crossing every line, every boundary regarding who that person is as a person. You're telling them what to think, what to feel, what to want, who to be, how to look. And I lived with that for years, and the person starts to become, they feel like they're invisible. So if somebody comes along and starts paying attention to them because you've just made your spouse feel invisible, then you've made them vulnerable to other people who might come along and make them feel seen or heard. So that's just something to think about, men who are always dismissing or negating their wives. You're making her feel unimportant and invisible to you, and you're definitely saying you don't care who she is as a person. She's not important to you. So these are all ways that boundaries can be crossed through gaslighting, minimizing, explaining, giving your intent, fixing, controlling, giving your advice. Those are all things that are crossing the line. So those things usually happen in our closest relationships. Those are very toxic. They will ruin relationships. And when like I said, when you've done the hard work of healing from those relationships, and you now have other people in daily life, friends or work colleagues or things like that, in relationships, you pick up on that boundary violation right away, and it bothers you. It bothers you because now you're healthy. You know what a boundary is. You know you have to enforce it. And those relationships feel toxic. They feel like hard work. They're draining. And I know I need my weekends away. I need to detach from that person completely. And I distance myself and do not allow her access on weekends. And that's just the way it has to be. If I go over to her house for, say, holidays, she always makes a big meal and has people over and things like that. She likes to cook and do those things for people. But she'll say something to me like, well, you didn't eat very much. Well, a normal, healthy person, number one, does not pay attention to how much somebody eats. We just don't do that. It would never even dawn on us to pay attention to how much somebody eats, let alone think that we're the person who should determine what is the right amount for somebody to eat. So normal, healthy people don't do that. It doesn't occur to us to do that. But to somebody who's codependent, always monitoring, always having to fix, always having to control because you're their project, and they have to oversee everything. They have to notice what you eat. They think they know how much you should eat, and I know when I feel full, and so these are things that I find with this particular person that I really have to. It's draining for me, and so I don't like holidays. I don't like weekends. I try and distance myself. And because she's a very, I don't want to paint her as a terrible person. She's not a terrible person. She's very kind and very sweet, but she does not know what a boundary is. I mean, and she wants a project, and I don't want to be fixed or helped or I'm not somebody's project. I don't want a mother. I don't need somebody all up in my business all the time and knowing what's going on, or if she's always trying to read my emotions. It's just crazy if I'm 5 minutes late to work. She's calling me or texting me. I have to hang up. I won't answer it. You don't have to check in. I'm not going to allow you to check in. And just because you worry, that's your problem. It's not my problem if you're worried, and you need to take care of your worry and your fear. It's not my job to regulate your feelings, and I don't have to check in with you. So these are boundaries, and somebody trying to take over your life and kind of smother you in that way gets very draining. And there's been plenty of times where I have just thought, is this relationship even worth it? It's just it just drains me. But when I try and teach her these things, she does sit down and listen, except for the going to the doctor thing. Every single time, doctor, dentist, whatever, she has to insert herself in there. So, you can't bring up anything in your life that's negative or like you have a problem with something because she wants to jump in there and fix it, or she wants to give you money for something, or whatever. I can't say, I have to, make sure I have a dentist appointment coming up. I have to make sure I keep enough money in my account for gas to get back and forth to work so I can, so then you can't say anything. You can't even mention that you might have a need. So if I have something personal in my life, I have found I don't talk about it. It's none of her business. I don't want to hear it. I don't want her prying. I don't want her advice. I don't want her comments. So, I keep it a work relationship, and, it's not that I'm not empathetic, like when her dog died or something like that, or when she had an accident at work. I'm right there at the hospital with her. So I'm there when she needs me, and she would be there for me too. But there is this intrusiveness in this relationship, and with some relationships you have to decide, is this a relationship that is just too toxic and too draining, or do I want to do the work and try and teach this person what boundaries are, and how to respect boundaries. Now, I do have a visual too on what boundaries are in a relationship, and let me see. I did this on my laptop since I'm a visual person. I'll turn this around. I did this visual years ago, and it kind of helps people. Visuals help people remember things, but let's see if I can get this down here. Sorry. So here's this little cartoon kind of thing that talks about boundaries. So you have a house, you have a family with children, you have pets, you have Bob the Builder over there, and somebody who, has hobbies, tennis or something like that. There's a car. And all those things are within that boundary or that yard. So think of the house and anything within that yard as a boundary. And if you do not live within that boundary, those things aren't yours to comment on. Somebody's crossing the line if they want to tell you what to drive, what hobbies to have, what you should like or dislike, what career you should have, what kind of pets you should have, how you should feel, what kind of car you should drive, what color to paint your house, your personal body space. That's another one. Personal body space is very interesting, because if you go up to a person and you're too close and you're in their personal body space, you will find that most people will step back. It makes them uncomfortable. So we all have a boundary with around us too. It's a comfort zone where if you get too close, you're in our personal space. So that's a boundary too. And people feel angry or discomfort when a boundary is crossed. So these are all kinds of relational boundaries that can give us trouble in relationships. And sorry, I'm checking my time here. And we have to be aware of them. We have to be aware of what kind of people we have in our life, in our lives. Are these relationships worth keeping? Part of our healing process is learning what a boundary is, and then practicing with people who cross a boundary. Practice mentioning to them, I don't like that. Please don't do that again. And it takes a little courage to be able to mention that. And if you had somebody who was so used to running amok in your yard, running all over your yard, and then you put up a fence, now they're going to feel controlled because they're used to just trespassing against you and, running your whole life and making comments and telling you what to do, what to think, what to feel, and then when you start setting boundaries, they're not going to like that. They're used to running the show and controlling you. So they're going to tell you that you were the controlling one. So where boundaries are concerned, I hope this helps. We have to decide if those relationships are worth it to us, if we're going to keep them. If they're too draining or too toxic, or the person continues to disrespect our boundaries, we have to, you just might have to not grant access to those people anymore. You're not going to heal if your boundaries constantly being abused or crossed. You're not going to be able to do the healing. You have to not give those people access to you if they don't respect it when you say, I really don't like that. So I hope this helps. We weren't taught this when we were kids. These are things that I had to learn, and it was part of my healing process. And I know now when my boundaries they have been crossed, or I feel that disrespect. It bothers me right away. I know what it is. And another thing is, it can point to something in me, another place in me where I need healing. That doesn't mean that we still let people cross our boundary, but it is, if something bothers me, that just lets me know, oh, there's something there I have to pay attention to. And you seek the Lord on it, and you just, maybe admit to yourself, I need a little bit of more healing there in that area. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps with relationships. And then if you don't know anything about boundaries, there's lots of videos and everything out there, and that should be able to help you. But I hope this helps. Sorry, it was storming outside and I came in, so my hair's all wind blown. But anyway, I hope this helps, and love you guys. I'm gonna start putting videos up. I have, camera, lights, a tripod that'll follow me, and a microphone and everything right now. So all I have to do is figure out how to use them and charge everything, and we'll get some teaching videos up. Anyway, God bless you. Love you. Bye.